If you are growing in the veg plot, you might want to give some thought. There's just been some recent research which I've seen. Dave Goulson, who writes fantastically well about bees and wildlife, really knowledgeable, posted it up on Twitter, showing that the yields from vegetable plots where, in this case, borage was planted alongside the crop, this was a strawberry crop, was very substantially increased. Now, I haven't got any borage, but they do say also in the same article that pollinators, wildflowers, in amongst the vegetable crop, obviously they bring the pollinators in, and you have to have pollination to get crops. Sometimes people email me saying that they're not getting any fruit, particularly on things like courgettes. And it's a failure of pollination, because to complete the cycle, the plant has to flower, has to have pollination, and then it produces fruit. So pollinators, which are not just bees but are also all different insects, are really important. So I've got a strip next to between some carrots and some strawberries, and I'm going to sow some wildflowers in there to help increase it. And I have nasturtiums and calendula growing in the veg plot as well. It's just an idea, but sometimes crops can be a little bit disappointing, and increasing the yield by increasing the number of pollinators is a good way to improve things. Just going to have a word about ponds. We don't often talk about ponds, but this time of year a pond can appear quite green, and that can be a bit of a worry. So if your pond is green at the moment, there's 2 or 3 things just to have a think about. If it's green because it's got algae, i.e. actual plant growth on the surface, then the thing to do with that is to get it out. And you need to use a stick, not a sharp stick, because you don't want to puncture the pond lining. Having punctured a pond lining, it is a bit of a disaster and a real problem to fix. So do be careful. But what you want to do is to kind of move it around, so you swirl it up and pull it out so that you can get it out of the pond. Leave it on the side because there will be creatures in it. Give the creatures a few days to escape, and then when it's dry you can put it on the compost heap. That's one type of greenness, but you can also get a greenness on a pond which is like a pea soup. And that's not uncommon, and it should come and go quite quickly. It kind of blooms and then it should go clear again. Great. But what if it hasn't gone clear in 2 or 3 weeks' time and it's still green? Well, that's fixable, but it's a more complicated problem, because keeping a pond clear is about the balance in the pond. Oxygenators, you may not have enough oxygenators. There may be too much sun on the pond, so there's not enough coverage, so you need plants covering the surface like lilies. It may be that you've got fish, too many fish in the pond, and their excrement will add nutrition, and nutrition feeds the bloom. So if you go to the website, there's a full page about what to do about green ponds, and take a look at that. It's curable, but it's often about the natural balance in the pond that needs to be looked at. And ponds need not be green. We had a pond for many years, and it would bloom at this time of year and then it would go clear. So have a look at that page, tell you about how to get the balance right in your pond. And the last word goes to our garden favourite, slugs. So far this year we've not really had much of a plague of slugs, because it's been quite dry and they tend to be less active when it's dry, and that's really good. But as soon as we get more tender plants out there, more bedding plants out there, which they love, and it rains, then we will get problems with slugs. So you need to look at ways of killing them. So, or at least inhibiting them. I grow vegetables in a raised bed, which has rough sawn sleepers, which are very good. The slugs don't like climbing up those. If you don't have that, you need to look at beer traps. These are really effective for slugs. Essentially, you can buy a pre-made beer trap with a little lid on, which helps stop the rain diluting it, or you can use any of your own homemade containers. And you fill it full of cheap beer, and they are attracted to it, and in they go, and it works really well. But they are, I have to say, quite disgusting to empty and clean out, but really efficient. You can use organic slug pellets. You can use, there's quite a lot of products on the market, rough sewn eggshells. Go to the website and there's a whole load of ideas on keeping slugs at bay. My favourites are slug traps and nematodes sown into the watered into the soil when it's at its right temperature. Now, this year I haven't been able to buy nematodes, so it will be slug traps. And bear in mind that slugs don't just like vegetables, they do like new growth, delphiniums, new shoots on clematis. Slugs love bedding plants, and it's very disappointing when you look at your lovely basket to find that it's got slug chewed plants in it. There are 2 or 3 things here. If you go onto the website, onto bedding plant pages, the first thing to bear in mind is that some bedding plants are more attractive to slugs than others. So they'll not bother with these nasturtiums, they'll not bother with calendula, but they'll go wild for marigolds. So you can have a look at the list, and if you're troubled with slugs in your garden, and some gardens have more than others, look at growing those which are more slug resistant. It's also true that if you get a plant soon enough, and there's images on the website, I think it's of a petunia that's been badly chewed. If you dig that out of your basket, bring it into a controlled environment like a greenhouse, pot it up, give it some TLC. If it's not gone too far, it will recover and it will start to grow new shoots, and you can plant it out for the slugs to eat it again, but hopefully not. And here we are looking at the wisteria, which May is looking absolutely beautiful, smells gorgeous, a fantastic climbing plant to grow. But it's troublesome to grow. It requires quite a lot of time and attention, and the main thing it needs is pruning, and that's regular pruning twice a year. So you can see by the size of it that it now needs quite extensive ladders to prune the top reaches of it. So if you're looking at wisteria thinking that's absolutely fantastic, but I don't really want to go up a ladder to prune it, then there's a couple of alternatives. They were in fact featured in this month's May newsletter. And that is that you can grow wisteria as a standard, and there are frames that you can buy that spread the wisteria out, and you can grow it as a standard, which would make it much easier to prune because it would be within reach. Or you could grow it along an arbour, which again would be much easier to reach than the upper story of the house. But wherever you grow wisteria, you are bound to really enjoy it. And I hope you enjoy your gardens in May and keep safe during these difficult coronavirus times. Be safe in your garden and enjoy gardening. So there's a few tips for gardening in May. I hope you enjoy your gardens in May and look forward to seeing you all in June.